Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'll be sharing my thoughts on the season finale of The Walking Dead: The Storm. As always, I won't be holding back on any spoilers, so please do bear that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. After last week's shocking episode, I think most of us expected the show to take a step back and slow things down a bit, and well, that's exactly what happened during The Storm. There were no character deaths or big battles that we seem to have come to expect during a season finale. Instead, this was an entry that spent the majority of the time exploring how last week's event affected the cast members. And you know what, although there were some moments that I thought were a bit too slow, on the whole I really liked it. I think this was the kind of episode which the characters needed as well as the audience after what happened last time, with it managing to end what has been a very impressive season on a rather bittersweet note. As alluded to last week, winter is finally coming, and with it unfortunately comes the fall of the kingdom, as without Henry there to mend the pipes, it seems that no one else knows how to fix the heating. Okay, that's probably not the reason why, but anyway, the point is it's too cold at the kingdom, which means it's time to shut up shop and move on. It's kind of weird that after all the kingdom has been through, it would be the weather that causes the community to fall, but nonetheless I liked this unexpected turn of events. From a narrative point of view, I think it's a very wise decision to say goodbye to the kingdom. There's so many different communities on The Walking Dead, and although it's only natural that people will begin to spread out and settle down in different areas due to how much time has passed since the outbreak, I think most of us still pine for the days when everyone we cared about was all under one roof. I'm hoping that this decision to put the kingdom on ice will result in the main cast of characters staying closer to one another, which will hopefully mean we get to see them interacting with one another on a more regular basis. I certainly got that impression from Michonne, who stated that being apart had made the groups weaker instead of stronger, suggesting to me that she is now open to the idea of bringing everyone together. Her explanation that Alpha was able to walk around the fair undetected due to the communities not knowing one another was a clever explanation, and one that I'm glad was included. You could argue that if Ezekiel was more familiar with the residents of Alexandria, maybe Deborah's presence would have raised an alarm. As it stands though, he had no way of knowing she wasn't who she said she was. Although I am hoping for more scenes of our favourite characters together next season, I don't think we'll be seeing too many instances of Carol and Ezekiel side by side, as their relationship has seemingly come to an end due to them drifting apart after Henry's death. I got a sense immediately that something was wrong between them when I saw Carol sitting on the end of their bed at the start of the episode, before Zeke confirmed they were having troubles. This all culminated with Carol handing back her ring to the king, with Ezekiel stating that he will always love her, which was pretty damn sad to watch. It's a shame that they couldn't help each other through the death of Henry, but having a child die is not an easy thing for any couple to overcome. Many relationships do break down when this happens, and as sad as it was, it made sense, and we will just have to wait and see if the two of them do get back together in the future. With Ezekiel not wanting to lose Carol, he starts to pin the blame on Carol's close friend Daryl. Ezekiel witnesses Carol comforting Daryl when she touches his arm, at which point I did wonder if the king might be getting a tad jealous. Now it seems like an incredibly dumb thing to get jealous about, and well, when you think about it rationally, it is, but I can understand why in this situation Ezekiel would put 2 and 2 together and make 5. Think about it this way, Ezekiel has more than likely tried to reach out to Carol a number of times, but it hasn't worked. I wonder how long it's been since they had a proper conversation with one another, and as well as the last time when they actually had any physical contact. With Carol pulling away, Ezekiel sees what he thinks as her reaching out to Daryl, in this case quite literally, and with him knowing how close they've been in the past, he begins to panic that she is going to leave him and run into Daryl's arms. A moment later, the king pulls Daryl to one side and basically asks him to piss off and leave him and Carol alone. Now, as I just explained, I know why Ezekiel felt the need to do this, however, when I saw it happen, I still couldn't help but think to myself, Ezekiel, you are an absolute dickhead. What are you doing, man? It's not Daryl's fault that things have gone south with you and Carol, and trying to separate Carol from one of her closest friends when she is grieving is not going to help things at all. Although Daryl denies that anything happened between him and Ezekiel when Carol asks him at the sanctuary, Carol knows that something did, and perhaps this is what tipped her over the edge, ending up being the final nail in the coffin for her and the king. And with Carol single again, I'm sure that the Carol and Daryl shippers will be going crazy, hoping that Kang will make their Daryl and Carol fanfiction come true next season, and who knows, maybe this is a possibility. From a personal point of view, I've always just seen the two of them as friends. I honestly don't know if Daryl is even interested in a relationship with anyone. He just doesn't seem like the type of guy who wants commitment and to settle down. He's quite happy just living with his dog hunting squirrels to the end of his days. I think a more likely scenario is that Ezekiel does end up back with Carol, but we will see what happens. I also got a sense that part of the reason why Carol resents Ezekiel is because she feels that he isn't willing to fight the Whisperers, whereas she is. When Michonne suggests crossing a pond into the Whisperers' territory to cut down the time it would take to gather supplies, Ezekiel is the first one to say that they shouldn't cross past the Whisperer's borders. Carol immediately replies to this by saying that Alpha was the one who created the borders, not them, with her seeming a bit hostile to Ezekiel due to his attitude of trying to appease the Whisperers. Now, I don't know what happened between her and Ezekiel during the couple of months that have passed since Henry's death, but I've got an inkling that they haven't been able to agree on how to deal with the Whisperers, which has driven a further wedge between them. Speaking of the Whisperers, poor old Lydia is still finding life tough since leaving the group, with many of the characters blaming her for last week's deaths. We see Alden snap at her when walkers are spotted in the field, to which Daryl quite rightly steps in to defend her, but it does make me wonder just how much abuse she has received since switching camps. You have to feel for her. I mean, she's gone from being stuck with a crazy abusive mother to now being with another group that hate her. Granted, the snidey remarks that she's getting at the moment are nowhere near as bad as what Alpha did to her, but let's not forget, she's lost Henry as well. So it's not as if she hasn't suffered due to her mum's actions, so it's not really fair for everyone to take their anger out on her. With Lydia once again feeling like the outcast and that everything is her fault, she attempts to kill herself not once but twice, with Carol being the one to save her on both occasions. Carol says to Daryl early on in the episode that all she sees when she looks at Lydia is Henry, so it has to be tough for her to look past this and not feel the same hatred towards Lydia that a lot of the other characters do. Thankfully, Carol is clever enough to realise that not everything is her fault, and personally I'm happy that she was the one to come to Lydia's rescue, and I hope to see more of the two together in season 10. Away from the hilltop, the other focus of this week's entry centred on Alexandria also trying to seek out shelter from the cold. With the solar panels no bueno as Eugene puts it, the group decides to round everyone up and bunker down in the building that has the biggest fireplace. Gabe realises that Negan will freeze alone in his cell, meaning they have to take him with them. Negan often treads a fine line between being annoying and funny, but I thought he was hilarious throughout on this occasion, with it looking like he spent the majority of his time in prison improving his one-liners. We know he gets a kick out of winding people up, and I laughed out loud at the comment he made to Gabe in which he said he was a father but not the father. Yeah, it's a bit cruel, but I've got to give it to him, that was actually quite good. Negan didn't just spend the entire finale taking the piss out of everyone, nope, he actually also ended up saving Judith. Yeah, that's right, Negan, the guy who went to war with Judith's dad, saved her life. If you told me that at the start of season 7, I'd have told you were crazy. So why does Mr. Negan end up saving Judith, you ask? Well, it turns out Judith was tasked by Daryl with looking after Dog the dog, but she lost Dog. Now, I'm sure lots of viewers were screaming at their TVs at this point because none of us want Dog to die. I mean, Kang, you can pretty much kill anyone you want, but if you kill Dog, then you're in trouble. Anyway, as luck would have it, Judith hears Dog barking when the group are making their way to Aaron's house, at which point she sprints off after it. Without even thinking about it, Negan immediately runs after her. I did think it was a bit weird that no one else thought to give chase to Judith, and I swear I even heard Rosita say something along the lines of, "Don't let go, we need to carry on," as poor Judith headed out into the storm on her own. I mean, maybe they couldn't see her or didn't hear her go, I don't know, but it just seemed a bit odd. Granted, I think the others did eventually join the search for her, as I heard them shouting Judith's name in the background when Negan found her, but it's a testament to just how important she is to Negan that he was the first one to give chase to her. Like I said a moment ago, when Negan was first introduced, I would not have expected him to end up caring so much about Rick's daughter, especially not to the point where he would risk his life for her. However, I feel that the special friendship the pair have has been a fantastic development to come out of this season. When Negan took his coat off in the blizzard, wrapped it around Judith and said to her, "I know why you ran off, you just wanted some more Negan time," as weird as it sounds, I thought this was a really cute thing to say to her, and it's something that a loving dad would say to their daughter. I am all for Daddy Negan, and for me, Negan was one of the best parts of this episode. It seems like Michonne might also be coming round to the idea of Daddy Negan. Okay, I've got to stop saying that, that sounds a bit creepy. What I mean to say is that it seems like maybe, just maybe, Michonne is slowly starting to realise that Negan has actually changed. When she finds him in the infirmary, instead of walking out the door like she wanted to, she instead took the time to sit down and talk to him. Michonne usually isn't interested in anything Negan has to say, but perhaps this is also changing. With Negan being clever enough to work out that she'd entered into Alpha's territory, I see him playing a much bigger role next season. Hopefully Michonne will let Negan loose to go to town on the Whisperers. And speaking of the Whisperers, we got a brief snippet of Alpha and Beta right at the end of this episode, with the Whisperers returning to the camp after the storm had subsided. Alpha refers to what is to come next, and I wonder perhaps if she knows that our protagonists have entered her land and what she is now preparing for is war. It could be that next season we discover that a few Whisperers did in fact stay behind at the camp and witness the group cross into their land, which is why Alpha is readying for battle. Whatever the case may be, I don't think it will be long before war breaks out. On the topic of Alpha, I found the scene of Beta whipping her to be a bit odd. I mean, maybe that's just their way of toughening each other up, but I don't really know, so please let me know what you think about that scene because I don't really have a clue. Before I go, there's a few things that I quickly want to mention. So first off, I thought it was a bit strange that Maggie hasn't replied to any of the letters sent to her, especially considering what's happened of late. But maybe there is a valid narrative reason for that, we'll just have to wait and see. Secondly, there's a message that plays at the end of the episode over the radio that says, "Is anybody out there?" which seems to be alluding to the Commonwealth. Now don't quote me on this, as it's been a while since I've read the comics, but I didn't think the Commonwealth were introduced until after the Whisperer comic arc, so either they are coming to the show early, or it could be another group entirely, possibly even something original for TV. I've seen some suggestions that it may be Maggie or even Alicia from Fear the Walking Dead. Personally, I'm not convinced by either of these theories, but I might be wrong. Regardless of what or who it is on the other end of the radio, I think it's a nice little cliffhanger to end the season on. It's not like the ending of season 7 in which we had to wait an entire summer to see who died. Instead, season 9 ends on a nice little mystery that will keep fans talking about the show until it comes back, and I like that. Finally, I just have to say that I loved the snowy setting. I've been waiting a while now for snow on the show, and it made a nice change from the constant summer that we've had for 9 years. I do have to say though, although I like seeing the frozen walkers alongside the winter setting, I didn't really enjoy any of the scenes in which our characters had to deal with the undead. I thought the walkers bursting out from the snow by the lake was a bit dumb and lacking in any real tension. We all know that Mr. $10 million contract Norman Reedus isn't going to die by a walker biting his ankles in the snow, so yeah, for me these scenes were just a bit boring. Overall, this certainly is a different kind of season finale to what we've become accustomed to, but you know what, it was a nice change. I like that The Walking Dead didn't feel the need to throw its eggs into one basket like it's done with the season finales in the past. Instead, what we got was a slower, more character focused episode, which I felt was needed after last week's installment. Strangely, even though this season didn't end with a major unresolved cliffhanger, I actually find myself looking forward to next season more so than I would have probably done if last week's episode were the finale. I applaud the newfound confidence the show has in its writing ability and its characters to say, you know what, we don't need all the big deaths to happen in the last episode, all we need is a well written episode, and that's what we got. So like I said, this episode was different, but sometimes different is good. The entire season has been different to what has come before, and on the whole I've enjoyed it a hell of a lot. I've been reviewing The Walking Dead on my channel since season 7, and I can say that this is the only season I've covered in which I looked forward to each episode instead of dreading it, and I hope this carries on to next year. The Storm is a very good ending to one of the best seasons of The Walking Dead. So there you go, that's the end of the review. Please let me know your thoughts below. Did you enjoy this finale? Did you think it was a bit disappointing? You know, whatever your thoughts, just please let me know. And with that, that's another year of The Walking Dead reviewed. Thank you for sticking through me throughout the year. There's still going to be plenty of more content coming on my channel. We're going to do Game of Thrones next, and then Fear when it comes back. And we're going to look at what other TV shows I can review as well. So keep on my channel and I'll let you know what's going on. Don't really know what else to say now, but I will go because I'm talking crap. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Bye.